Hey everybody, this is herculespetix, founder, curator, docent, and gift shop employee of the herculespetix Academy of Comic Book Studies. Today we're going to be looking at Wanted, a collection of the 6-issue miniseries published in 2008. This is written by Mark Millar, drawn by J.G. Jones, and with colors by Paul Mounts. Really fun graphic novel. So nasty and mean-spirited, though. It was, I forgot. I haven't read this in a long time. But man, I don't think this could be published today. It's very nasty. But I kind of like nasty. We have a little synopsis page, credits, and contents page. We have an introduction from Brian K. Vaughan. And now, Chapter 1, Bring on the Bad Guys. An homage to the classic 70s Marvel book all about supervillains, because that's what this comic is about. So the narrator it's a first-person narration from a character named Wesley Gibson. He's talking about how his girlfriend is fucking his best friend behind his back. He knows about it. We don't really know how he knows about it so clearly, but he's such a kind of milksop that he doesn't really even confront his best friend about it. He just pretends it's not happening. He really doesn't love his girlfriend that much in the first place. He works in a job where he's just constantly belittled and humiliated by his boss. And this is a weird little thing going on here. He keeps mentioning taking shit from my African-American boss. Later on, he'll use that term maybe 2 or 3 times in the graphic novel. Someone will chide him and say, oh, you want to go back to eating shit from your African-American boss? Like it's worse than a Caucasian boss? I don't know. It's kind of weird. He's in a rut. He gets the same sandwich every day. He's a nice guy, but he's just stepped on every day. Every day when he walks out of his job, these cholos kind of harass him, follow him for a few blocks, yelling at him. And he spends most of his nights, he's a hypochondriac. He's looks up like WebMD to see if he has any new diseases. And he also looks up a lot of porn because he's not getting any from his girlfriend. There's this old guy at the stoop every day when he comes home to his apartment building. He seems like a really nice old guy who just always says, cheer up, Wesley, it might never happen, kiddo. And he gets really annoyed by this. So now we cut away we see this very rich old guy. And he has 2 gay guys on his bed, really beautiful young men in little thong bikinis and bottoms. And he's telling them how he's not a homosexual necessarily. He's had over 5,000 women in his life, but just every other year he likes to mix it up, because there's nothing better than after a year of being with men. When you're done, the women are even better. It's almost like cleansing your palate. I just thought that was kind of an interesting lifestyle. We see a target on his head, this old guy. And all of a sudden, bullets riddle this fancy apartment, killing the young guys. This guy, we realize, is more than he seems, because he dives out of the bullets' range and grabs 2 guns. So this guy's quite formidable. Jumps out of the window, and he's like running on the sides of the walls here, practically. And he attacks his attackers. And just every shot is unerringly hits these guys. So we realize this guy's a fucking badass. This art by J.G. Jones is phenomenal. J.G. Jones, unfortunately, is one of those artists who's just so good that all he does is covers. This might be the last interior comic art he drew. I don't know. But it's very rare when he draws. And his stuff is not too stylized, just very realistic, but it's really good. And it's very appealing. These colors by Paul Mounts I kind of like. Sometimes Paul Mounts goes a little overboard with the painterly effects. But it kind of matches the dark hues of this, kind of match this dark world, you know, a world of supervillainry. So he leaves one of the guys alive to find out who, you know, hired them to kill him. And this poor guy's terrified. He's just like, I don't know nothing, man. We're just decoys. And he says, what? And then we see his head blown away. So now we're at his funeral. We see all these other supervillains there. And from the dialogue, we find out what's going on in Wanted, in this world. In 1986, all the supervillains got tired of getting beat up by superheroes, and they all decided to join forces and systematically take out every superhero and kill them. And they succeeded. On top of that, they one of their members is a super genius called the Professor. He invented this kind of hypno ray, and in the Empire State Building is really just this huge antenna, which changed the world. Almost, I'm sorry. They also have an extra-dimensional imp, very much like Mr. Mixoplex, who basically has the power of a god, just like Mr. Mixoplex. And he also, with his help and some evil supercomputers, kind of brainiac-level supercomputers, they changed the world and erased everyone's memories of superheroes. So in this world, it's in a way like our world, where we just think superheroes are things in comic books. But every now and then, you know, people in this world have like an almost Alzheimer's like flashback and like, oh, I seem to remember a superhero when I was a little boy. But for the most part, they're forgotten. And the supervillains took over the world. They divvied up the continents, and they've been running everything like a cabal, like the Illuminati. So people at the funeral are wondering who killed. I'm sorry, that guy's name is it's the Killer. That was his supervillain name. So who killed the Killer? Everyone's wondering. And the biggest candidate is Mr. Rictus. He is like the biggest, baddest ass supervillain. The one the other supervillains are kind of scared of. And from their chatter, we also find out that the Killer has a son out there. And they've hired a law firm to find him because he's going to inherit $50 million. So now we go back to Wesley Gibson. And it's so weird how they keep talking about, people keep describing this girlfriend as, oh, your fat girlfriend. And she's not fat at all. She's actually pretty hot. But she's considered fat. His life keeps continuing on this this crappy trajectory. His girlfriend keeps fucking his best friend, and anyone else will fuck him. His boss keeps humiliating him. And then one day while he's ordering a sandwich, this woman approaches him. Now this is the Fox, and she's a supervillain. And she basically just says, hey, cancel that order. You won't have time to get your sandwich. You got a business appointment. And he's just like, what are you talking about? I gotta go to work. And she's like, fuck you. You got a business appointment now. And then she pulls a gun out and kills every single person in this restaurant. Of course, Wesley's just like, holy shit. And Fox says, get in the fucking car. We're not going to be late. So she tells them more about the way this whole world works. Basically, if you're a supervillain, you can do anything you want. She wears this little pin. So the authorities can't stop you. You could go into a mall and kill every single person in the shopping mall. The cops would show up and they'd see your pin and just be like, oh, sorry to bother you. And no one really knows they exist, though. If they ever do something that crazy, the newspapers will cover it up and just say there was a gas explosion in a mall or something. So he's just like, he's not accepting this. He's just like, this is a nightmare. And Fox tells him, only difference between a dream and a nightmare is how big your balls are, bitch. This comic is just, everyone's pretty horrible in it. So she takes him to like the supervillain headquarters. I guess they have the ability to go into other dimensions because they often go on excursions into other dimensions to kick the superheroes their asses. Since there's none to kick here on Earth, they sometimes go to these other dimensions, and I guess for old time's sake, they like beating up superheroes. A lot of these supervillains we'll see, they definitely are reminiscent of, classic Marvel and DC heroes. This guy kind of looks like the Vulture. This guy looks like Sunfire. It's pretty close. This guy looks like the Tarantula, except he's more blue. But they all look pretty cool, these costumes, considering that, J.G. Jones had to make probably 50 or 60 of these costumes of characters that you're never going to see again, So we also meet this one character. His name is Fuckwit. And Fuckwit is basically Bizarro. He is the copy of the greatest superhero that existed. A bad copy, a Down syndrome version, just like Bizarro. And you even have to say things backwards to him. And so now he meets the professor. The professor, if you remember, I said that the world was carved up between the 5, supervillains. So the professor got North and South America. I don't know why he got 2 continents. And he's in charge here. And he's the super genius who pretty much pulling off that 1986 coup against the superheroes and the world governments. It wouldn't have happened without him. It was all most of his idea. So they're all filling him in, telling him about, so of course, the killer is his father, was his father. And basically they're telling him that to get the $50 million, though, you have to do a bunch of stuff. Your father really wanted you to be a man. He saw that you're basically just this gutless, tool your whole life. And he didn't want that for you. So basically, we're going to train you to follow in his footsteps, and then you get the $50 million. So of course he doesn't want to do it. So his trial by fire is he hands him a gun, and he says, these 6 flies have been bothering me all morning. I want you to shoot the wings off of them. And he's like, I've never even held a gun in my life. And he says, it's in your genes. Your father was the best killer the world has ever known. And then Fox puts a gun to his head because he doesn't want to do it. And she's like, okay, if you don't kill those flies, I'm going to shoot you in the head. At the count of 3. And right at 1, he lifts the gun up. And without even thinking, he shoots the wings off the flies. So he really did inherit his father's skill. I guess that's a superpower. We see chapter 2, Fuck You. Now, he's gone back to his old life. He's got 24 hours to think about it, to decide what he wants to do. Everything's the same. That annoying guy in the stoop. The cholos bother him again. His girlfriend is making an excuse to go off and fuck some guy. And then we see him at work, and the Fox calls him up. She says, this is what you're going to do. You just got to break ties. I want you to throw up all your papers, write them so everyone can see in your office, in your little cubicle, and tell everyone to fuck off. Which he does. I love this panel. Fuck you, you fucking assholes. And he storms out of his job. Now they start training him. He's shooting corpses so he gets the feel of actually seeing body parts splinter, and he won't be grossed out. They put him to work at a slaughterhouse for 2 weeks. And his whole life he's been a vegetarian and a Greenpeace campaigner. But this is to make him, like, just get used to gore, I guess. They're trying to rip the empathy out of him. Then they just have sessions where this big guy beats the shit out of him every day while he's tied to a chair. So he can lose his fear of getting punched in the face. When I was talking about how nasty, mean-spirited this is, like, the supervillains, like, casually talk about, like, oh, this is great. You can rape any woman you want. And and they use the F word, and I'm not talking about fuck as a pejorative, which I guess a lot of people did back then. I know it's not that long ago, but it's really got this mean-spirited to it, this comic. I still think it's a really entertaining comic, but for some of you who are sensitive, you won't like this graphic novel. It's kind of offensive. Finally, they untie his bonds, untie him from the chair, and let him fight back, and he totally just kills the guy, and he feels great. He says, I feel like I just fucked Marilyn Monroe without a condom. So then he goes on a killing spree. Yeah, this is where it gets really nasty. Where he just, he pulls a Starkweather and just goes to a tower and starts shooting innocent people that he doesn't even know. Then he starts killing people, anyone who ever dissed him or bothered him in life. Like the chick who said no when I asked her to a movie when he was a teenager. And I think in one of these things he talks about, like he raped some woman who pissed him off once. It's really just like, this is the protagonist of this book. But it's really just like over the edge. I was going to say over the top, but it's like, I don't know. But I mean, I like weird European movies too, so that are just nasty. But yeah, this is definitely, I don't identify with this guy. He's not a good person. He's not supposed to be. So we just see him going around evening out scores and killing people, working out. And the day he finally gets to get revenge on those Cholo guys who've been harassing him for years is glorious for him. And it's so weird how J.G. Jones, I think, wanted him to look like Eminem. There's other panels where he really does look like Eminem. So he kills the Cholo guys. All the supervillains watch on proudly. He tells his girlfriend about what's going on, and she's like, oh my God, you're having a nervous breakdown. Are you crazy? Are you listening to yourself right now? And she's all insecure and just says, like, is this your fucking lie just so you can get out of a relationship? Is there another woman? And he's like, don't act coy with me. I know you've been fucking my best friend. You've been fucking everybody. And then this like just shows how like nasty this comic is. That kindly old man, maybe the fact that he says the same thing every day is a little annoying. He just shoots him right in the head. And he says, fuck you too, old man. Fuck everybody. Fuck my mom for raising me to be such a fucking pussy. And then it's the night of his initiation. He puts on his dad's old duds. And now he's the new killer. We see some more of these kind of cool looking supervillains. That guy's just Mr. Freeze. And that looks like Ghost Rider. So he's totally grooving on this. He went from zero to, well, not hero, to just to 1 million in like a week or a few weeks, and he's loving life just by completely becoming an evil piece of shit. I guess it feels good. He gets a nice introduction from the doll master. He makes all these little dolls that do his bidding. He's a supervillain. And then Mr. Rictus shows up. And it's like a turd in a punch bowl. Nobody wants him there. They're like, what are you doing here, Rictus? Rictus is bitter because when they divvied up the world, he got Australia. That was his continent. And so he's been trying to like fuck with the professor for years. obviously jealous of his intelligence and the fact that he has much more territory. So he's kind of intimidating everybody, intimidates young Wesley. And we find out that the killer, the original killer, Wesley's dad, and the fox were an item. They used to work for Rictus. They jumped ship to the professor's gang. I guess he was doing things like even that the fox thought was terrible, like killing babies and shit. So, well, I should mention before I continue, I love basically Mr. Rictus's henchman here is Shithead, who's like Clayface, but he's made entirely of shit. But it seems like he has the powers of Clayface. He can turn liquid like diarrhea and go through like pipes, or it can be like a rock hard constipated turd at will. So that's another reason why Mr. Rictus is pissed off, because he feels like the killer and the fox betrayed him, or and that's why he's also a key candidate as the assassin of Wesley's dad. So finally he leaves. Some nice colors here. And the professor says, yeah, I'm pretty sure he killed your dad. We're all pretty agreed on that. And now we get the whole story from the professor's own lips about how they took care of all the superheroes, how they got fed up with being thrown into jail every, 30 days, and how they made the world forget. We see this one old classic superhero who needs help to defecate. He's just a doddering old dotard. See, look at that M&M looking thing. It looks like the professor cheated a little. They were supposed to eradicate every bit of evidence that there were ever superheroes, but he kept what looks like Superman's cape, this equivalence world of Superman. Now we have Super Gangbang, Chapter 3, and we see an alternate dimension. This is kind of one of his trial by fires as a young supervillain. And he goes to this world where there's still superheroes, and he's got to kill a bunch of them to steal this thing, a certain object, which we'll find out in a second. And some really good action. J.G. Jones is really good at this stuff. This kind of cinematic, big screen, crazy action. I like how Fox is flying this jet, and they're like, oh my God, there's like 400 superheroes on the roof ready to attack us. She's like, fuck that. And she just flies her jet into the 90th story of his building, right where the treasure is that they're trying to pilfer. And now they come back to the normal dimension, and Wesley hands over the thing that he stole for the professor. So apparently, it's like a kryptonite condom. Back in '63, he was the professor was planning to their version of Superman. I guess one of the supervillains was like a seductress, and she was going to seduce Superman, have him put on this condom that was made of kryptonite. Well, in this universe, it's probably called something else. So I guess he's going to gift it to one of the Council of Five. So that night, the Council of Five is going to meet. That's the 5 world leaders of each continent. I almost said Eminem. Wesley goes to the Dollmaster's house. Turns out that in Dollmaster's community. He's known as like the nicest man in the world, the best neighbor. He has 2 loving daughters. He loves his wife. He's a super nice guy. Nobody knows that he's this evil mastermind, supervillain. Don Lester tells him that, there's a lot of talk that maybe Fox killed your father, so adds a little intrigue. So now, basically, I'll call him Killer for now. Wesley, he's the new killer. He is the professor's bodyguard. So he's sent to this Council of 5 meeting. It's almost like a supervillain convention. All the supervillains are there, and then the 5 leaders are going to meet in a secret chamber somewhere. So we get to see more of these zany-looking supervillains. There's a shithead. Yeah, here's the description. He can make his body as hard as constipation or as soft as diarrhea. That's just, what a horrible villain that is. This guy's almost like a Two-Face, that Batman villain, but he doesn't have a dummy. I guess he's called Johnny Two Dicks, because he's this mild, meek, nice guy. But unfortunately, his penis runs his life, and his penis is like a horrible, evil person. We meet these other guys like the Frightener, the Puzzler. I like how the Puzzler has crossword puzzle designs on his costume. We find out the origin of Mr. Rictus. He was a good Christian, and he died. He was in a horrible accident that scarred him all over. He died for a minute or two on the operating table. He realized there was no heaven. There was nothingness. So he realized his whole life had been a joke. And all of a sudden after that, he became totally evil. So a lot of good stories in here. So the professor gives that kryptonite condom to the emperor. He's in charge of Asia. And the emperor seems very touched. He's like, this reminds me of better days when we used to fight that superhero. So in the Council of 5 meeting, we see Adam 1, who's in charge of Africa. His basically superpower is he's eternal. He's been alive since, the dawn of man. There's the professor. Mr. Rictus is there, of course. And then there's this guy called the Future, who's this total Nazi guy here with the SS tattoos. He's got swastikas on him. He's in charge of Europe. And then we have, of course, the Emperor. And I guess every year, Richter calls for a vote. And the Future is usually on his side. And they say, we're tired of hiding. We're tired. It's not fun just being bureaucrats who run the world, basically. I mean, sure, we're rich as fuck. And it's easy work. But, we got into this business for the kicks and for the notoriety. And we're tired of just hiding all the time. Of course, the other 3 have always vote them down and say, don't rock the boat. Everything's great. We own the world. But this time it looks like the Emperor might be the swing vote. And maybe he's considering, going back to the way things were. But then at the last minute, he rescinds and says, nah, I'm going to vote the way I have been. So Rictus and the Future are pretty pissed off, but they just leave in a huff. I like this how Wesley says, happy goat fucking, Mr. Rictus. And Mr. Rictus says, I don't fuck goats, Mr. Gibson. I make love to them. That's a great line. So in the car, the professor tells Wesley how we see how smart he is. He says everything that this was all a plan to. I knew the Emperor was going to vote against me for the first time. I kind of caught wind of this, so that's why I got him the gift. I wore a cologne that reminded him of his father. I sat at a certain angle from him, and I was tapping a subliminal code with my fingers. So this guy's like just the smartest man who's ever lived. He's kind of like Ozymandias in Watchmen, He's got every angle figured out. So he drops Wesley off, and he says, let's take a little detour, fuckwit. Fuckwit's the chauffeur, I should have mentioned. And he says, take me down to the waterfront. I want to get a prostitute. But Fuckwit leads him into this dark alley, drives him into a dark alley, and Shithead is waiting there for him, and Shithead kills the professor. He drowns him in shit. And when the other supervillains show up, including Mr. Rictus, he says, death by dysentery. And Mr. Rictus says, good, now let's get the rest of these idiots. So it looks like he's planning a coup. Now we got Crime Pays, next chapter. And Fox is telling Wesley his story about the first supervillains. At least the first villains with a shtick. They weren't super, they were just jewel heisters and bank robbers. And I guess they were completely naked. That was their shtick. So this is like back in the 30s. And it worked. In all their years of robbing stores and banks, nobody could ever quite ID their faces well because they were so busy looking at their dicks. You know, they were distracted. So that's why they did it. And they even say that, yeah, in the earliest superheroes, you really want to get in a public brawl with a guy with his dick swinging around. So we see the superheroes just like, I'm not going to touch that with a 10-foot pole. I'm out of here. Kind of a funny, interesting idea. And she gives them a little more history about this world, you know. There was just totally all these supervillains. How there's so many back then. And she kind of misses the old world, you know, of just like, she says the newspaper's boring now. All you see is Dow Jones and presidential election coverage. The old days, there'd be front page headlines of just like, this crazy supervillain attacks this superhero. So it was almost like a Marvel comic, the daily newspaper. We also find out about her past. She grew up really poor, and she had a talent for killing when she was really young. And she hooked up with Wesley's dad. And he made her part of the supervillain, the secret society of supervillains. So Wesley tells her what he did the night before, after the professor dropped him off from his limo. He was kind of bored, so for fun, he went into a police station and just started murdering every single police officer there. And then downstairs, he found a female officer guarding the jail cells. And he was all revved up from the adrenaline. And basically he was like, yeah, I was going to rape her in front of all the cheering prisoners. But then at the last minute, I just said, I don't want to go through with it. So he's having qualms about this new life. And he just burst into tears, he said, in front of all the prisoners. So it's almost like he's getting jaded with just being evil all the time. And Fox tells him, she's like, you don't have to be evil all the time. It's just that your father wanted you to be able to get what you want. Not to have to be evil all the time. He didn't want you to be a sociopath. He wanted you to be a man who knows how to get what he wants. And it's okay if you want to spend a week chilling watching TV. You don't have to go around being evil all the time. He asked her if she killed his dad. And by her answer, it seems very genuine. She's like, I could never do that. And now we switch away and we see the Rictus and his cabal are making their move. They've got Fuckwit chained up. This villain who's like the parasite, his name's Sucker. He sucked out all of his powers. So he basically has the power of Superman without the downside of being, mentally retarded. And they attack all of the professor's leading supervillains. The Imp, they've got pinned down, but they can't quite kill him. So they call in Sucker, say, hey, we need your assistance over here. This Imp is a hard nut to crack. He's got the powers of Superman, remember, so he flies over there and he just rips the Imp in two. So they kind of force, well, they don't force Johnny Two Dicks. The dick loves it. But the poor guy, they're all like, kill the fuckwit now. Now his powers are drained. And the whole time he's saying, I don't want to do this, man. I'm so sorry. That's some really nice, well-drawn stuff. Now we see the doll master being taken out by Rictus and his crew. This is just how nasty this comic is. He's ready to greet his fate with elan. He's just like, compliments to you, Rictus. You really did it. Whatever. I'm not going to kick. Just let me ask you something. My 2 kids and my wife are on vacation. Please leave my face intact. They're going to probably find me. And they're like, oh, that's interesting. Your family? They never made it to where they were heading. We found them. And he shows them pictures where it looks like they beheaded all of them. And probably did worse. And so now Dollmaster's like, he tells his dolls, he's like, kill these motherfuckers now. Meanwhile, because now that the killer's not part of the supervillain fraternity anymore, Wesley isn't. He's fair game to any cop. So using their power, Rictus using his world-controlling power, he basically has all these news reports are like, APB for Wesley Dodds. His old girlfriend goes on TV, tells everyone what a psycho he is. So now, not only are all the supervillains trying to kill him, but every cop and federal agent is trying to hunt him down too. So they break into Wesley's place, and Fox is there. And she throws Killer the gun, Wesley the gun, because she knows he'll do a lot better with it. Shithead's there and a bunch of other nameless villains. And just look at this great, crazy acrobatic pose. This is like pure gun fu. So he kills all the supervillains in like a second. And Shithead's the only one left. Now we see the Dollmaster. He's locked in his bathroom. I guess they finally subdued his dolls. And he's trying to call Wesley. But they blow him up before he can talk to him. Back to Wesley's apartment. He's basically got his gun on Shithead saying, what the hell's going on here? Shithead says that the professor's the one who killed your dad. He says that, your dad was really ambitious. And there's no way he was just going to be second in command under the professor. Tells him some shady things about like a really quick burial, scrubbing down the murder scene so there'd be no evidence. The professor did all this stuff. So Fox blows his head off. Of course, he's just like, I can just reform myself, you stupid bitch. And Wesley gets a jar of Purox of bleach. This scene's really interesting as they're leaving the Dollmaster's burning house. Some neighbors are just like, they think that these guys they're worried about that they just came out of his burning house. And they're like, do you want us to call 911? Are you guys all right? And Rictus, of course, just shoots the mother and father. This guy says, what about the kid? And look at this scene. It looks like that Batman Year One by Mazzucchelli. And he tells his cohorts, he says, leave him. With any luck, he'll spend the next 18 years training himself to avenge these idiots and give me something interesting to fight when I'm an old man. That was a really interesting idea. So they've succeeded. They now have the professor's base, and they have access to all of the professor's super weapons, which the professor didn't really want to use. He had the world under control, but Rictus is just a fucking maniac. And he can't wait to unleash all these horrors onto the world. Now we're back at Wesley's apartment. We see the remains of Shithead in the toilet. He bleached him out of existence. This chapter is called The Shit List. This is very Garth Ennis-y. But it's in a weird way, like, it's even more nasty. Because, like, Garth Ennis always has the humor to leaven his nastiness. And there's some good, funny jokes in here, believe me. But overall, it's just, he's got this mean-spiritedness. It's, I kind of like it. I mean, well, it's not like martial law. I was going to say martial law, but martial law is pretty funny, too. But there's this real, it's a world of just pretty contemptuous people. So, basically, they've closed off Manhattan Island. You know, like I said, the supervillains control everything. So, they basically tell the governor or whatever, the mayor, and they're like, we're going to find Wesley and the Fox. And I guess Wesley overhears this and says, who's running, asshole? And him and the Fox look loaded for bear. Now we see Mr. Rictus video calls the Emperor and Adam 1 to tell them about his coup. And basically that they're gonna go fucking nuts. They're not hiding anymore. I just realized this guy's like supposed to be Carnage, I guess. Once again, he shows how evil he is. He feeds these two old superheroes who don't even remember that they were superheroes. They thought they just played superheroes on a TV show. And they feed him to this killer robot octopus with a taste for flesh that the professor invented. So the whole reason why the three members always voted against Rictus in the future is because they were worried about superheroes from other dimensions coming to attack them. And because I guess interdimensional travel is way easier in this world. And, you know, Mr. Rictus kind of relishes the challenge. He's like, bring it on. I hope they do. Now we see the future, the Nazi guy, hanging out with Deadly Nightshade, who's pretty much Poison Ivy, it looks like. And all of a sudden, we see Nightshade taken out. And then we see the future's head exploding. And then that Carnage-looking guy, the Frightener. So the Fox and Wesley are just taking out all these supervillains. I like how Wesley says, you know, like, oh, a lot of guys have crazy superpowers. Like they can walk through walls and fly or something. But I just have one superpower. I'm really good at making people's lives end and killing them. So then, this is a pretty funny scene. The sucker shows up with all the powers of that superhero. And he's like, you guys are fucked. For 24 hours, I got every superpower fuckwit had. And Fox says, you steal fuckwit's IQ when you did that too, dumbass? And he's like, what are you talking about? And Wesley looks at his watch and says, 24 hours was up half a second ago. And he just falls to his death. What a dummy. So all the supervillains are now kind of panicking, like, oh shit. And Wesley and Fox are just on a killing spree. Look at this, he's got like a Gatling gun, just mowing down these guys. I like how there's a general announcement, calling all superfucks, calling all superfucks. Your new base is under assault. So now Wesley confronts the last supervillains and Mr. Rictus. And he's kind of, he loses his nerve all of a sudden. Because before that, his thoughts were just like, I'm fucking Clint Eastwood in every Dirty Harry flick. I'm Charles Bronson in Death Wish. Basically, like, I'm King Shit of Fuck Mountain. He's just feeling invulnerable. But then he sees all these guys, he's like, oh shit. And he's starting to second guess himself. And he's like, what the fuck did I think I was doing? I'm not this cool supervillain. I'm a wheezy asthmatic mama's boy. And we see him as a little kid with his mom. Because I didn't mention this, but his dad, the original killer, he walked out on them like when he was an infant. So he never knew his dad. He just thought his mom always said, oh, he's an airline pilot. So Wesley just starts killing these fuckers. He gets his nerve. And that's all he needed. Because he's got the skill. And he's just taking them out. This is some fun stuff. Fun fight choreography. Once again, more gun fu. Very athletic. And finally, it's just Mr. Rictus. And he tells Mr. Rictus, I'll give you one shot. Rictus takes it. He whips out his knife and bats the bullet away, deflects it, so it ricochets right into Rictus's throat. And before Rictus can die, he says, who killed my father? Who killed him? That's all I want to know. And Rictus says, Lee Harvey Oswald. And that's the wrong answer, so he kills Rictus. And then we hear a voice. I guess they're in a parking garage, it looks like. We hear this voice in the shadows, and he's clapping. And Wesley looks over and he says, Dad? And it's the fucking original killer. Next, Dead or Alive. So Wesley's going to shoot him at first. He thinks he's a shapeshifter. He's like, you should have done your homework. My dad's dead. And Fox is kind of like saying, Wesley, just calm down. Give him 2 seconds. The whole time he's got a gun on his own dad. Then finally, he realizes that it is his real dad. The dad says, let's grab some supper. And over this dinner, he tells him the whole story. So his whole death was faked, and Fox was in on it. And now we see a flashback. He tells him about the glory days of, before they took over everything. There was this club called the Masquerade Club where all the supervillains would hang out. Maybe it's even implied superheroes would hang out there too. And this sequence is drawn by Dick Giordano. I think it's the next 5 pages are all, maybe 6, to give it a Silver Age feel. So that night, the Avian, that kind of Hawkman-like supervillain, brought this non-superpowered woman as his date. And Wesley's dad was instantly in love with her. So he basically secreted her away and they had sex and they began a relationship. And so he fell in love with her. But this is when they were making the plan to take over the world. And his wife just wanted to move to Connecticut and have a family. And he was just like, I can't do that. I'm not that guy. I'm the killer. He draws him very much like a younger Tommy Lee Jones. So that's when him and the Fox hooked up. But I guess ever since then, he'd sneak into the house because the mother didn't want him seeing him. And he'd sneak in the house and just kind of look at his sleeping son, at Wesley, and maybe stroke his hair and leave little presents for him. It almost makes it seem like the world was more Silver Agey back then. The sky was more blue. Food tasted better. It's almost like when they remade the world in '86, they kind of ruined things. This dark, gritty world. It's just not as nice. And we actually see it changing here. It's all basically becomes nasty. Paul Mount really does these deep blues very nicely. Those are very appealing. So the dad just has all these regrets and guilt, but he also was sad the way the mother was raising him. And he recounts to Wesley a story. He says, once I was wearing an Inviso suit and I was watching you play, something I did every now and then when I was lonely. And one of the kids started beating on you. You didn't fight back. After your mother came out and broke it up, she said, I'm very proud of you. You didn't sink to his level. So basically, she was turning him into a pacifist on purpose, because she knew what would ever happen if you ever picked up a knife or a gun. He'd find out that he was really good at it. In his words, she trained you to become a world-class fucking pussy. So now we see a little montage of his life. He moves in with the first girl who will sleep with him. He stays at the first shitty job that hires him. You know, he's picked on. And that's the Wesley we meet at the beginning of the graphic novel. Just an aimless kind of milksop loser. So they hug and they go to the mother's grave. The mother died. And he says, you know, they have this nice reunion, but then he hands Wesley a gun and says, well, it's time we brought this to a close. We got to bring this whole thing to a close. And he's like, you got to shoot me in the head. He's like, what? Is this a joke? He says, no joke, Wesley. If you don't do this, our entire deal is null and void. Back to working for a living. Back to being stepped on by everyone. And basically, the reason why he wants to die is he's starting to falter a bit. He says that he actually missed a shot from half a mile away recently. He's losing his edge. And if he can't be the best, he just doesn't even want to live. Kind of dumb. I don't really get this whole thing. And so finally, look at that. God, that is totally Eminem right there. And as he's pointing the gun at his father, he's like, I love you, Dad. I love you too, son. No, but I really love you, Dad. So pull that fucking trigger, huh? And he blows his dad away in a double-page spread here. See how much I can get in it once. This looks like Judge Dredd from the waist down. And, God, the fox has got a smile on her face. She really is a heartless bastard. And even, I mean, she used to be his lover. I guess they were just fuck buddies, though. And then, like, basically, Wesley starts saying, you know, I don't think I'm interested in this shit anymore. I should just go back to my, you know, I'd rather be a stepped-on asshole than an evil prick any day of the week. Maybe I'll go back to my old job. You can't solve every problem with a bullet. And he even says, I regret how I treated my girlfriend, how I just ditched her. That was just as bad as my dad. She was my girlfriend, man. And then Fox says, wait a minute. You're fucking with me here, right? And he says, of course I'm fucking with you, bitch. Now let's go see what $10 million looks like in real life. But then he, like, Mark Millar kind of addresses the audience. And he says, there, happy now? Pleased to see the mystery resolved? God, you're such an asshole, and I speak from experience. It only seems like yesterday I was at your level on the pathetic-o-meter. Why should you give a shit how my life works out? You're killing yourself working 12-hour days, getting fat on cheap takeout food, and your girlfriend is almost certainly fucking other guys. He should have mentioned if you even have a girlfriend. Just because you've got a plasma screen TV, you're still a fucking well-paid slave. This comic that you're reading right now, he says, breaking the fourth wall, he says, this is just a 15-minute respite from your shit life. And when you're done with this book, you're just going to close it and buy something else to fill the big empty void in your life. And then, this is so odd, this last page. This is my face while I'm fucking you in the ass. The end. So it's very, very reminiscent of like certain things in Fight Club. This total like hyper-masculine romanticization. And also just like this addressing the audience. But very odd way to end this graphic novel. It's like, Why do you even care about me? You say I shouldn't care about your story? Why do you want to fuck me in the ass? Just because I'm a loser. Back off, man. But I gotta say, overall, though, this is such a fun read. Even though it's just got a lot of, like, weird attitudes in it. And kind of gross attitudes. Like toxic masculinity. Too much testosterone. We have an afterword from Mark Millar. And about his childhood discovering superheroes. And then they had this special comic called Wanted Dossier, which is like a little spin-off. And I think it was a lot of script pages and crap like that. It's one of those, money grabs. But it did come with all these great pinups. So let's look at these. Here's Wesley, drawn by John Romita Jr., with inks by Scott Hanna. You guys probably know from watching this channel, I'm not a big fan of John Romita Jr. That's okay, I guess, but not very good. The Fox by Mark Silvestri and Joe Weems V. Pretty nice. This is really nice. Dave Johnson drawing the professor, whose name is Solomon Seltzer, by the way. Dave Johnson always, when he does cover work, he always makes it way more interesting than the subject. Like they just said, draw the professor. And he made this crazy, whatever this is, crazy computer helmet. Just by the dates on here, I should mention, I think this original miniseries came out in like 2003, 2004. Because these dossier pages are timed that way. This is the original killer, Wesley's dad. Pencils and inks by Tim Bradstreet. This is like, I like Tim Bradstreet stuff a lot. Well, most of the time. But this really just looks like a photo with some shit splashed on it. A retouched photo. Barely retouched. This is just, I don't know. If I was a Mark Millar, I'd be like, can I have another one, please? That's not adequate. Here's The Council of Five by Ashley Wood. And very interesting interpretations of all these characters. They don't really look, that doesn't look anything like the professor. That doesn't really look like the emperor. This is The Heroes, Pencils, Inks, and Colors by Ty Templeton. I like this art. And it looks very much like Dave Gibbons. And this is just talking about how all the heroes were killed. Here's Dollmaster, Pencils and Inks by Brian Michael Bendis. He even has one of the dolls here. Did I mention the Dollmaster? I think I did. One of the dolls is holding a sign that says, cheap Scottish bastard with a movie deal isn't even paying me to do this. Can you believe that? Kind of interesting art. I've read his early stuff when he used to draw, like Jinx and A.K. Goldfish. I remember kind of liking them, but not enough to keep them, because I did own them at one point, and I don't anymore. He was, I guess, adequate artist for what he was doing, but you could tell he wasn't a real artist. Like, he didn't want to work at it too much. You could tell he just wanted to tell stories, and he had to draw them himself. Here's the Imp and Deadly Nightshade. I guess they're lovers, which is kind of weird since the Imp is basically in his dimension, the seventh dimension, is considered an infant. But, que sera, sera. This is nice. Shithead by Bill Sienkiewicz. The shit taking a big shit. God, I love Sienkiewicz's stuff. Here's Fuckwit by Frank Whitley. That's a kind of apropos, perfect choice. But once again, looks like Frank Whitley didn't want to spend a lot of time on this. It's like, I mean, it's a great shot from the back here, but really all he had to draw was this, and just a lot of black. He's picking his nose here. Here's Sucker. Pencils by Joe Quesada. Inks by Mark Millar. And it looks pretty good, the inks. So I didn't know he could draw. This is beautiful. Mr. Rictus by Jay Lee. God, I love his style. That is so nice. Cover galleries. Most of these are J.G. Jones, except for this one is Mark Silvestri. And this one is a guy named Rodolfo Migliari, an Argentinian. Kind of, I would think it's J.G. Jones. A very similar painterly style. And the rest here are all the covers of the original series by J.G. Jones. I used to own these, but then I found this book, so I got rid of them. Cover to the dossier. And these are, like, I don't know, special editions for Wizard or something. God, look at that. It's totally Marshall Mathers. More weird little variant covers. Some character design sketches by J.G. Jones. Really nice to see these. He's such a good artist. Super realistic, but he's got enough little stylization that it's interesting. I think we've talked about before on this channel, there's artists who are really super realistic, but it's almost like they're boring because they don't add any, they don't have any caricature involved. You know, a little stylization. So here's some, almost like Easter eggs in the comic. These are kind of fun. Mark Millar does this in all of his collections, where he'll show off a panel and be like, oh, originally it was drawn like this, but we had to change it. This was the original scene where the original killer gets his head blown out. But he felt it was too slow motion-y because you're looking at all the bits of gore and viscera. He wanted it to be more just like quick. And so it's kind of nice to hear even the artist's thoughts behind his choices and stuff. I love this kind of stuff. I wish more collections would do this. Here's a little script to page adaptation. And that's it for Wanted. So there you go, guys. It's if you have delicate sensibilities, don't get this book because it's just kind of very nasty. It's nasty to the core. It's not like there's a nasty character who then redeems himself or learns something. No, it's pretty much like, it really does seem like the theme is, it's cool to be this way. And, you know, sure, this guy had a shitty existence because he let himself be stepped on and, you know, shit on. But it doesn't justify going the exact, well, it's beyond the opposite way. He could have just stood up for himself. But no, it's like, it almost seems like, yeah, the only way to get out of this situation is to become an evil killer rapist and just take what you want from everyone for the rest of your life. Which I guess if you have no morality, it probably feels great. You're probably like, what a great life. I take whatever I want. I never need anything. But it is strange that he does seem to have moral qualms in this, actually thinks about it, and then just says, this is awesome. My life kicks ass now. Fuck it. So I don't know, very interesting graphic novel because it kind of has an odious theme to it. But I found it very entertaining, very fun, and I love the art. I was going to do Chosen. I just read that last night, and I realized I'm kicking out of the Academy. It's a pretty good story about the second coming of Jesus Christ and the Antichrist and yada yada. But, God, the art was just so bad by Peter Gross that I was just like, I don't need this in my collection. It's a decent story, but I don't want to ever flip through this again. This is the opposite, where even if this was the crappiest story in the world, I'd probably keep this graphic novel because J.G. Jones is just so good. And, well, I probably wouldn't if it was really crappy. But it's definitely a bonus to have J.G. Jones drawing this. So hope you guys liked looking at this comic, and I hope to see you next time here at the herculespetix Academy of Comic Book Studies.